Hey, welcome everybody to Chapter 5 of Notorious, and it's entitled Keenan. So we will continue on with Chapter 5. Sometimes I feel guilty that I only hang out with ZB to play with Barney too. I know that sounds bad. I really do like ZB, but her Cocker Spaniel happens to be the sweetest, smartest little guy on earth. For sure, he's entitled to some human affection. And he definitely isn't getting that from his owner. If there's one good thing about contracting TB and having to leave my life in China to come to recover on this weird island in the middle of nowhere, it's Barney too. Poor pup. He doesn't even have a real name. Just a holdover from the Godzilla of all dogs. You know what would be the perfect name for him? I say, tossing the tennis ball, which Barney too leaps up and snaps out of the air. Lancelot, like the knight, Lance for short. She looks at me like I'm crazy. He's named after the greatest dog that ever lived. We're walking along St. Clair Avenue in the middle of downtown. It's the part where the border is so zigzaggy that you can be in a different country practically every few steps. As we talk, I'm throwing the ball to Barney too, who's snatching it out of the air and bringing it back to me, loving the game. Although he's playing with me, he keeps looking at ZB for approval and getting none. That's how starved he is for her attention. How about Rocket? I suggest, working on dog names. She snorts. He wouldn't rocket if you filled his water dish with jet fuel. What are you talking about? Look at his vertical leap. To prove my point, I lob the ball high over Barney Two's head. He leaps for it, missing by only a couple of centimeters, and then takes off in pursuit as it bounces along the street. It ricochets off the sign advertising the Centerlight Mob Museum and drops down a few cement steps to the building's basement entrance. Barney 2 dashes after it. I'm right behind him. ZB brings up the rear. Barney 2 surrenders the ball after the unusual tug of war. He loses interest in me, although when ZB taps on the museum window, check it out. I peer inside. It's a plain white room with primitive pieces of wooden furniture, dead center. An old chair, I ask ZB. Look closer. I press my face against the glass. My grandmother has one like that, guaranteed to give you a backache if you spend too much time on it. Believe me, ZB replies gravely, nobody spends too much time in this one. Think about what this place is, the Mob Museum. All right, I give up. What's it supposed to be? How many chairs do you know with leg straps and a helmet? I gawk. Is that an electric chair? Bingo, she confirms proudly. Elliot Ness brought it here personally. Why waste it in some federal prison when most of the people who needed executing were right here on the island? I feel myself turning green. How many? 47, she replies immediately. Can you imagine their electric bill? But at least they saved gas not having to drive the guys down to Joliet. I shoot her a skeptical glance. Her earnest expression never wavers. Well, maybe not 47, maybe like 22. At least 10, she adds. And maybe Elliot Ness had it shipped. I never know quite what to make of ZB's stories. On one hand, she has to be at least a little bit full of it. On the other hand, she's such a natural storyteller that it's like the normal standard of true versus made up doesn't apply to her. The story's all that matters, so she twists the facts to make it as good as can be. Is that so terrible? It wasn't terrible when I was stuck in a lawn chair in the backyard with a dead phone, and her company was the only thing that kept me from losing my mind. Besides her, I have exactly 0 friends on the island. To be honest, I didn't think I'd need any, but now it looks like that's going to change. I shake my head. Like it or not, I'm here for the foreseeable future. Let's go someplace, I say. That thing creeps me out. ZB shrugs. Don't blame a Canadian. You're the ones who used the chair. We just hanged people. Want to see where the gallows used to be? I shudder. No thanks. Then how about some froyo? That's another thing about ZB. She can switch topics from gallows to frozen yogurt in the blink of an eye. It's a good quality, I think. Hanging out with her can be exhausting when it's all gangster executions and pet murder. without anything lighter to balance it out. The dessert place is a couple of blocks away on the Canadian side. While we're eating, I show ZB some of the pictures on my phone. Every photo has a kind of backstory to it, like the shot of me 2 years ago falling on my face during the dance-off at my school in Lesotho. ZB points to the girl trying to moonwalk beside me. Who's she? Sumaya, I reply. Monster volleyball player. Her dad was the ambassador of Bangladesh. Bangladesh, she echoes. You live there too? I shake my head. All the diplomats' kids go to international school, so you've got friends from pretty much everywhere. The families from my school in Shanghai spoke over 200 languages. It's kind of fun to be doing some of the talking for a change. When you hang out with ZB, it's tough to get a word in edgewise. She stares at my 6th grade class picture until I realize that her interest isn't so much in the kids as the location. Our school trip last year was to the Great Wall of China, and the photo was taken on top of it, in front of one of those guard towers. In the background, you can see the ramparts going on forever and ever. Man, she breathes, can you imagine if our border looked like that? I'd never have met you. Life would definitely be different if we had to climb over that every time we wanted to cross the street. I agree with a snicker. Or use the bathroom at the post office, she adds seriously. It's all I can do to keep from cracking up as I picture Little Centerlight with a giant fortified wall twisting down the middle, slicing through the lawns and bowling alley, separating Taco Bell from its parking lot, and cutting the lighthouse in two. She flips back in the gallery and brings up a shot from when we lived in Korea. 9-year-old me during my orange belt test in Taekwondo. ZB laughs at my expense. Check out those pajamas. She looks a little closer. Hey, you could really fly. Pre-tuberculosis, I explain glumly, thinking of my training sessions at the Island Fitness. I'm going on the weights. Still, I get out of breath way too easily. I'm not hitting that kick anytime soon, Bryce says. I should be patient, but I'm not sure if I'll ever get back to where I was. She makes a face. That guy needs a personality transplant. I see him around town a lot, flexing. Does he even know how to smile? Or did he transfer all his facial muscles to his pecs? He smiles, I say defensively. I'm trying to come up with some specific examples of when her expression abruptly turns grim. I follow her eyes to the front door. A kid is coming into the shop, a boy about our age. What? I whisper. She's tight-lipped. He comes over. Hi, Zarabeth. It's a greeting. It's a greeting, and it's not. He stretches out the name. His gaze travels to me. Hey, kid. Keenan, ZB supplies. One of yours? He questions. She shakes her head. One of yours, Ronnie. He lives with his dad over on Sequoia. No kidding. Ronnie looks at me, minus the sneer. I guess I'll be seeing you around school. Takes me only a second to catch up to what they're talking about. One of yours means that this Ronnie kid and I are both American. Yeah, I guess so. Something tells me not to invite him to join us at our table. He nods in the direction of Barney 2, who's tied up outside. That your new dog? It's a dog, ZB deadpans. His name's Barney 2, I put in. Ronnie grins. Did you ever meet Barney 1? You definitely remember. ZB has been looking anywhere except that Ronnie. Now she wheels and fixes him with a glare that packs the power of the electric chair across the street. Ronnie doesn't take the bait. Well, good meeting you, Keenan. Later, Zarabeth. He buys a vanilla flying saucer at the counter and exits the store. As he passes Barney 2, he pats him on the head because he knows it'll annoy ZB. You don't like that guy, I comment. His dad used to call the cops on Barney, she complains. His family even tried to sue us once when their poodle had these really funny-looking puppies. The web feet were a dead giveaway. It wasn't just cheese, you know. Barney had all kinds of interests. I make a face. This guy Ronnie must be a real jerk if he holds it against you. She shrugs. That's not it. I mean, Ronnie's an idiot, but he isn't any worse than all the other idiots around here. The problem is, I don't go to school with them. That's who your friends are. The people you see in class, the ones you're with every day. I get on the ferry and go to the mainland to school. And I don't make friends there either because as soon as the day's done, I'm back on the boat and gone. Wow, I never thought about it like that. ZB's in a tough spot, being an islander in every way but one. It's easy to overlook because here nobody really notices which side of the border you come from. But what school you go to, that's a huge part of your life. No wonder ZB didn't laugh at the idea of the Great Wall of China cutting Center Light in two. In her world, that invisible line might as well be a giant physical barrier. So what if she can cross it whenever she wants to? In every way, that matters. She's permanently stuck on one side of it. That explains why she's coming back to me, a guy who was sentenced to hard time in his dad's backyard. I wasn't going to tell her she wasn't part of the club. I didn't know what the club was. I try to cheer her up. Well, what am I, chopped liver? We're friends, right? Her mood isn't rebounding. Just wait. You'll probably go to school with Ronnie and those morons and forget all about me. You never forget the person who introduces you to your first electric chair, I tease. She pushes her frozen yogurt away, half-finished. You'll see. Dad has to take me to register on the first day of school, like I'm in kindergarten or something. The only other first-timers really are in kindergarten, so I look like a total idiot standing in line with all those blubbering 5-year-olds. The little kid next to us alternates between sobbing and negotiating with his mom over how many Power Rangers she promises to buy him if he goes to school like a big boy. She's offered 2, and he's angling for 4. All right, how many Power Rangers is it going to cost me? Dad asks me with a wink. Or Pokemon. Thomas the Trains? Dad thinks he's hilarious. He's alone in this. I used to have Power Rangers, I inform him deadpan. Chinese customs confiscated them. They were culturally subversive. Dad sighs. Mom's globetrotting gets on his nerves. He just doesn't understand the expat life. Most Americans don't. And if ZB is any hint, Canadians don't either. The population of Centerlight doesn't change much. Most island kids are born here. Newcomers are rare. So when I explain that in order to get my school records, the office is going to have to contact countries like China, Hungary, and Brazil, I get a lot of strange looks. The assistant principal, Mr. Fertile, accuses me of making up Lesotho. Well, it seems like everything's under control here, Dad announces after the Lesotho incident. I should probably hit the road and get into the city before my office realizes they can get along without me. I stare at him in dismay. When he was selling mom and me on the move to Centerlight for my recovery, he said a lot of encouraging things like, "I'm your parent too, and don't worry, I've got your back as long as you're living under my roof." Did that only count when I was lying like a rock in the yard? And now that I'm still alive, I'm on my own? As the secretary leads me out of the office to period 1 class, we pass Mr. Fertile. He's staring at Africa on a globe, probably trying to find Lesotho. I hope it's there. That globe looks pretty old. It's completely landlocked by South Africa, I explain helpfully. He gives me a dirty look. The good news is that geometry isn't any different in Centerlight than it is in Shanghai. The school part is stable, even if my living situation isn't. It's kind of awkward. One advantage of international schools is there's no such thing as being a new guy because everybody's the new guy. Diplomats reassigned, the global business crowd follows fresh opportunities. And people like Mom and Klaus take new jobs in different countries because they love experiencing new cultures and places. And when the adults move, their kids move with them. But my classmates here have been together since Centerlight Jamboree. It's not that they're mean. They aren't. Even that Ronnie kid from the frozen yogurt place says hi when he sees me. It's just that they have their long-established groups and cliques, and I don't belong in any of them. At lunch in the cafeteria, I sit at the end of a long table. I'm not alone. In fact, the place is packed. But I might as well be all by myself. I pick up my sweet and sour pork with a pair of wooden chopsticks that are 90% splinters. In Shanghai, they would be banned by the government as lethal weapons. That's when a voice at my elbow exclaims, "Man, how do you do that?" I look up in surprise. After being completely ignored all morning, I'm suddenly the center of attention. "Do what?" I ask. "Eat lunch." "Yeah, but the chopsticks," the kid persists. "They're awful," I agree. "I'm getting more wood than food." A girl breaks in. "How do you pick up the smaller pieces? I always drop everything." I frown. "Haven't you guys ever seen chopsticks before?" Ronnie speaks up. "Of course we have, but they slow down the very important process of food getting into my mouth." He stabs at a piece of pork, and it sails over his shoulder and hits the floor, to laughter and some sarcastic applause. I survey the table. A lot of kids are having sweet and sour pork, which is the hot food option on today's lunch. But I'm the only one using chopsticks. Where I come from, Chinese food is just called food, and chopsticks are the delivery system. Up and down the table, kids are eating with plastic forks and even shoveling with spoons. The only chopsticks in action are being used for sword fighting. I take another bite. Every pair of eyes follows the piece of meat from the plate to my mouth. I almost choke. Ronnie snaps apart a pair of chopsticks. "Okay, expert, why don't you show us?" That's how I end up walking up and down the long table giving chopsticks lessons, straightening fingers and adjusting kids' techniques. Mr. Fertile comes up to me, ready to chew me out. It's like he doesn't know what I'm doing, but he's pretty sure it's against the rules. He stops short and watches me show Carla Haroni how to hold the top stick between her middle finger and the base of her thumb. She's kind of clumsy, but she's getting better, practicing on a bowl of grapes. Her friend Gabrielle Beckham has the fingering right, but she's pressing so hard that she crushes everything she picks up. A puddle of grape juice is forming in front of them. "This is how they eat in Lesotho?" the assistant principal asks. "Shanghai," I reply. "But the schools I went to, most kids were good with chopsticks because they lived all over." He walks away shaking his head. Ronnie grins up at me. "Man, you sure schooled Fertile." "I don't think he likes me very much," I say. "Don't take it personally," Joey Cabretti assures me. "Fertile hates everybody." That turns out to be sort of my official welcome to Center Light Middle School. If Mr. Fertile thinks I'm worth hating, then I must be okay. I don't know how popular I'm going to be with the lunchroom staff, though. After 40 minutes of chopsticks lessons, beginner level, the table looks like a war zone. But in my next class, social studies, Ronnie and Joey save me a seat between them. "So," Ronnie whispers, as we wait for the teacher to arrive, "what's up with you and Zudu?" "Zudu," I echo. "You know, Zarabeth." He stretches the name out the way he did in the fro place the day before. "She your girlfriend or something?" "Of course not," I exclaim. "She's just the first kid I met on the island." I give a quick recap of how ZB found me during one of those long afternoons, fumigating my TB germs in Dad's backyard. "What do you call her, Zudu?" "It's this fancy fertilizer my mom uses in her vegetable garden," Joey supplies, "made up from the poop of zoo animals. You know, ZB, Zudu." "That girl's weird, man," Ronnie adds. "She's not so bad," I say. It can't be easy going to that school on the mainland when everybody else comes here. It's like you're the odd man out before you've even started." Ronnie shakes his head. "That doesn't explain everything. You ever talk to Zudu? The gangster stuff? She's crazy." "She's pretty into island history," I concede. "And her family lives in a famous gangster house." "Oh, that was a long time ago," Joey scoffs. "It's just for the tourists now. Like you can go to the OK Corral on vacation, but don't expect to meet Wyatt Earp in the hot tub." I start to say, "She knows that," but the protest dies in my throat. I remember ZB's exact words. "Things happen here." She spoke of mysterious footprints and voices. "Someone's watching our house, Keenan," she told me. I swear it. Does that sound like someone who understands that Center Light's gangster past is exactly that, in the past? "She thinks somebody killed that giant mutt of hers," Ronnie adds. "Next thing you know, she'll say it was Al Capone." "Her new dog's pretty nice," I put in, a little guilty that I don't have more to offer in ZB's defense. On the other hand, Ronnie and Joey haven't said anything I don't agree with. They could be nicer about it, but I totally get how other kids would see her that way. Yeah, well, she owes us a nice one, Ronnie retorts. She owes us 50 nice ones after Barney. Listen, Keenan, we all cried when old Yeller died, but I guarantee you nobody shed a tear for that monster. Zeeby never said that Barney was good, I point out, just that she loved him. Hooray for her, Joey puts in bitterly. That dog was the nastiest thing ever to set foot on Centerlight, and I include the old-time gangsters on the list. My mom's precious garden, Barney used to trash it twice a week. You put up a fence and he goes under it, or over it, or through. You stand guard and spray him with the hose and he bites you. You call the cops, well, they're scared of him too. At that point, Mrs. Prager breezes in, officially ending our conversation. I try to picture Zeeby at her own school on the Canadian mainland, and I feel bad that she's not here to speak up for herself. Still, most of what I heard from Ronnie and Joey, I've already heard from Zeeby herself. She's the one who talked about how terrible Barney was and how much everybody hated him. It's amazing how everything seems different when you look at it from another perspective. And that's the end of chapter 5. So hopefully you'll join me for chapter 6 of Notorious in our next video. Until then, we'll see you later.